The thing about Jimmy was he was a great little guitar player, and he was also a character. He was a pro. He was a good pro player. He'd been in Stone the Crows and Thunderclap Newman, and he'd already proved himself as being able to play and record, you know, and do live stuff. Different music too, blues, you know, progressive to blues to Wings. Um, I don't know how he got the job actually. I can't quite remember how Jimmy got in. I think he came through one of our roadies, Ian. Yeah, that's right. Ian worked for Stone the Crows, Ian Horn, and said, "There's a great little guitar player." Paul would probably say, "Do you know any guitar players?" You know, Jimmy got the job, and he slotted in really well actually. I mean, there's no problem with him. Jeff Britton wasn't really our cup of tea as the style of his lifestyle. As a drummer, he was a great drummer. And the way we got him was because we did auditions, but we didn't play. We got other people to play because we wanted the drummers not to be intimidated playing with Paul McCartney. We wanted him to play just different styles of music so we could say that guy can play anything. And Jeff Britton really passed the audition because he was so confident and could play anything. So that was how we got the job. But when he got in the gig and we went to Nashville to actually rehearse and we did Junior's Farm, a couple of things with him. His character wasn't right for us. Simple as that. You know, he was a karate guy. He was into that. And he was like, what's this got to do with music? You know, that's how I felt about it. You know, there was too much of that influence for me. And it wasn't like being in a band so much, you know. But, you know, God bless him, was a good drummer. There's no getting away from that. The guy could really hit them, you know, get a good groove and everything. It was just a personality thing, I think. But, you know, that was the same with everybody in the band. I sort of found Steve Holley and Lawrence Juba for the other lineup of Wings because Steve was a neighbour and Lawrence did a TV show with me, the David Essex show, actually. He was the guitar player in the studio band. That's how that came about. You know, you go with what you got then, and then see if it works out, you know. But let's say, you know, they all had their influence on the music, and it was a good influence, I think, you know. But again, look, Jimmy had his problems, and then, you know, he passed away, which was terrible. I mean, because the guy wasn't really a, you know, a druggie. He was a little Scottish guy, but he wasn't like a big, strong, strapping guy. He couldn't take his booze and all that. I mean, he wasn't like, you know, heavily into anything. And that was the sad part about it, really, because it was an accident, you know. But there you go. But wow, he was a great guitar player. And if you look at any of the Wings footage, you know, he never missed a trick, you know. You never heard a bum note out of Jimmy. It was always there, you know. Simple and effective. And, you know, it's sad, really, when somebody gets taken away like that so young, and they got so much to offer, you know. That's the sad part about it. Because, I mean, imagine what he'd be like today, you know. It's always a problem. But, I mean, that was as a result of him being in the music business and the influences that come in from the outside, you know. Like, we weren't really that kind of a band, that we weren't like heavy drinkers or heavy drug takers. We weren't. I mean, some bands are. Some bands got into all that stuff. We weren't. And that's why it was so sad, you know. We were into the music. We were into the music and having a good time. But we weren't bloody, you know, falling over like, you know, trying to get stoned all the time. It just wasn't like that. And that's always a sad part. You know, I've had other friends that have gone like that in the music business, and they're always great musicians. You know what I mean? They're not just people who can't play. I mean, they really are good at the game. John Bonham, Keith Moon, you know, and Hendrix. I mean, they're the top people, and yet they fall into that thing of, you know, maybe prescription drugs and not getting enough sleep and not doing this and pushing themselves too far, and physically they lose it, you know. They die young because of that. And that's the sad part about it, because they're not just your normal run-of-the-mill players, these guys. They're the best at what they do, and then that's why they still live on. The music still lives on, you see. That's why the bands have still continued, if you see what I mean. Or the members in the band have gone on to bigger and better things, because that influence in their band was so huge, you know. That's what made the band, that member was as much a part of that band as anyone in any band, you know, as an important part is what I'm saying. I mean, Led Zeppelin, they didn't reform after Johnny went, because he was such an influence and such a heavy part of that thing. You can't get somebody to really do that again. You know, so everything else from then on is just a version of. It's not the real deal. So that's what happened with Jimmy. And I you know, kind of after that, to bring anyone else in after, you know, was difficult. You see what I mean? We had that identity. And then Joe English went off and did his thing, which is more of a religious thing. Again, wanted to take some time off from being in the big time, if you like. Because it pushes you to the edge. The energy that's required and the time and the timing, basically, because you're pressured to do more. The more you do, the more you're pressured to do. And it becomes such a job. One of the things we always did, and that's always the same with me today, is we took time off, especially, to go to Scotland, to go and work in places where the pressure wasn't on us so much. A lot of people don't do that, you see. But you've got to take time off. You've got to learn how to say no, you know. So we always had that. We used to go to Scotland. We used to, like I say, do our albums in certain places where we'd have that certain energy. And, you know, it keeps you going. But like I say, there are a lot of musicians and bands that fizzled out, you know. And I don't think Wings fizzled out. I think it was just a case of like, okay, Paul got done in Japan. We were going to be going on tour now for a couple of years. We was back in the studio, time to do something different. You know, that's all. That's all that was. But we could have gone on. You know, we could have done that same thing, the trio thing, and done the same things. Just made more albums.